Hi, I'm Jesse Ahmet, host of Valley News Now. We've got an update from our newsroom. Weather today is going to be sunny and hot in the 80s and low 90s, a chance of rain and thunder tonight. And a murder suspect is now in custody after SWAT members and several law enforcement officers surrounded a West Fargo neighborhood last night. 19-year-old Fabian Edwin Scott was arrested and is now being held at the Cass County Jail on multiple felony charges, including murder and strong arm robbery. West Fargo police officials confirmed that the arrest is connected to the death of 16-year-old James Moore last week outside a Fargo apartment complex. 31-year-old Marcus Rexroad is already booked on charges related to Moore's murder, and he has yet to be formally charged in the case. Police say multiple people were involved in a fight before the shooting that happened in the 4400 block of 9th Avenue South in Fargo around 11:15 p.m. on May 22nd. Police also confirmed that several gunshots were heard and Moore was found with a gun laying on the ground next to him. Fargo police are holding a news conference in just a few minutes at 3:30. We'll have that live for you right here on Valley News Now. Fargo native Mark Lindquist gives us an update from the Ukraine on North Dakota today this morning. You can check our Facebook or YouTube channel to watch that interview and find out all about his humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. And Mike Pence will be announcing his run for the presidency, suspected to announce that on June 7th, which also happens to be his 64th birthday. And the driver's license for all program that was passed into law in Minnesota will go in effect October 1st of this year. 81,000 people that this will include, including undocumented immigrants, and that begins again October 1st. And they're getting interpreters in place, trying to make sure that things go very smoothly. You can join that conversation by commenting below. Send us a message through our VNL News app on how this affects you, what your opinion is on it. We want to know what you think. And free tuition for Minnesota residents who make $80,000 or less and don't already have a bachelor's degree. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. As maybe a Minnesota high school graduate, are you considering taking a gap year now that you could have free tuition beginning fall of 2024? And parents of new grads, if you would recommend your child to wait, with some of the pros and cons that are involved there, let us know how you feel. Join that conversation too. Comment below or send a text on our app, VNL News. Happy Harry's Rib Fest, the kickoff to summer. 4 days of food and fun for the whole family. Concerts every night. It begins 1 week from today at the Fargo Dome. They'll be setting up towards the end of this week. And a student from Ben Franklin Middle School in Fargo is currently doing a fantastic job at the National Spelling Bee. 13-year-old Luna Jesovic is currently competing in the Scripps National Spelling Bee, and she is still going strong. We've been watching her today. She is now in the semifinals. She's one of 14 left, and there are some big prizes for the winners, especially the top 7. First place gets $50K from Scripps alone, along with many other prizes. So best of luck to Luna going forward. And if you're looking for something fun to do this weekend, starting off tomorrow, Movies at the Square are back for the summer with the superhero series kicking off the season tomorrow at 7 p.m. Join Broadway Square for an evening of superheroes, villains, and movies every other Thursday in the month of June. So you can bring your blankets, stretch out on the lawn, and gather in front of the mega screen. There'll be snacks and beverages and food vendor options will all be available, but you can bring your own too. And off-site alcohol is not permitted. However, Rose Wild will have an on-site cash bar, allowing those people over 21 to enjoy. All the movies are free and open to the public. They're also closed captioned. Movies at the Square will continue through the summer with a different theme each month. And coming up again, we've got the Fargo Police Department press conference. And that should be in just a couple of minutes. Again, that press conference is in relation to the second murder suspect now in custody after SWAT members and several law enforcement surrounded that West Fargo neighborhood last night. A 19-year-old Fabian Edwin Scott was arrested, and a 31-year-old Marcus Rexroad already in custody.
Good afternoon. I appreciate you coming to receive this update. The purpose today is really to provide an update to our community on the significant progress we've made relative to this homicide investigation since our initial press conference less than a week ago. We've done tremendous work in that time, and in a second, Captain Bill Alfeld's going to be up here telling you some of the information, more details than we were able to share before. But this is still an active and ongoing investigation. We still have pieces yet to complete, and we are actively working with our state prosecutor's office. Ryan Youngren is here as well, relative to completing some of the investigative steps and then potential charges. So we're not at a juncture where we can answer additional investigative questions. So I'll just throw that out there now. The information that we provide you will be as much investigative information as we can provide at this moment, but it's substantially more than a week ago, which is good. I think the other key takeaway from this for our community is the understanding of the enormity of the work that's been done and our commitment at Fargo PD to take very seriously violent crime in our city. We don't condone it. We know our community doesn't condone it. And when it occurs, we go to every and all legal lengths to identify everyone who is involved in these particular incidents. As you'll learn here in a minute, this particular situation involved many persons, all of whom were involved in some form of illegal activity. And so all of those avenues are pursued by our investigators, from the individuals involved to how weaponry and things like that was obtained. So all of those things are part of the investigation, and some of which is still ongoing. But really, it's kind of a message of encouragement to the community about the efforts that go on here, and also to those who may become involved or decide to be involved in violent crime, that we will identify everyone that's involved, and we will pursue them, all investigative leads, and bring in all of those folks before the criminal justice system, because we think that's important. Most definitely in a case such as this where someone has lost their life. From there, I think I'm going to turn it over to Captain Alfeld, who will be able to provide you with a little more information relative to this investigation.
Thank you, Chief. On May 22nd, 2023, at approximately 11:19 p.m., the Fargo Police Department responded to reports of shots fired in the 4400 block of 9th Avenue South in Fargo. Upon arrival, officers located a young black male who appeared to have suffered a gunshot wound. Despite life-saving efforts, this male was pronounced deceased on the scene. That individual is later identified as 16-year-old James Moore. After the scene was secured, detectives and investigators from the Fargo Police Department's Criminal Investigative Division were called to the scene to conduct a thorough investigation of that scene. That investigation is still ongoing and is still developing. During our previous press conference about this incident, we were unable to give many details about the incident for the purposes of not jeopardizing the investigation. Now, subsequent to that investigation, we can give some description of the incident which occurred, ultimately resulting in the murder of James Moore. Through interviews of witnesses and those involved, we feel confident in saying that this incident was a drug robbery, and actions taken by individuals who participated in that drug transaction led to the death of James Moore. 4 individuals have been arrested in relation to this incident. All are being charged with some form of felony offense, and they are as follows. Marcus Rexroad, 31-year-old Fargo resident, charged with murder A felony, conspiracy to deliver controlled substance, marijuana B felony, firearm possessed by a felon, and a Fargo warrant for driving under suspension. Tommy Trent, 36-year-old Moorhead resident, conspiracy to deliver controlled substance, marijuana B felony. Marcus McEwen, 41-year-old Fargo resident, murder AA felony, conspiracy to commit robbery, firearm possessed by a felon, and tampering with evidence. And Fabian Scott, 19-year-old West Fargo resident, murder AA felony, and conspiracy to commit robbery. The state of North Dakota is considered murder to actively take part in serious offenses such as robbery, which result in the death of someone involved in the robbery. Individuals can be charged with murder without actually committing the act of killing the victim, but taking part in the incident which led to it. This portion of North Dakota Century Code was taken into consideration when placing some of the charge in this case under arrest. I would like to point out the fact that hard work and teamwork between the Criminal Investigation Division and other metro area partners such as Cass County State's Attorney's Office, along with our federal partners, led to the quick apprehension of the above arrested individuals. It was a great piece of investigative work. Thank you all, and Sergeant Wagner, your team, for your hard work and dedication and efforts during this. I'd also like to point out that this investigation is far from over. The origins of the weapons involved in this incident will, along with many other leads, still have to be determined and investigated. And lastly, I'd also like to extend our condolences to the family of James Moore. It's tragic when anyone is killed or dies in this way, but even more tragic when they're 16. So thank you. I think we have Ryan Youngren coming up next.
And again, Ryan Youngren with the Cass County State's Attorney's Office. I want to thank the chief and everybody with the Fargo Police Department for all the hard work that we have gotten from them in the last several days, and the arrests. And from there, then we take it over as far as the court proceedings go and look at charges. And you've heard from Captain Alfelt a lot of those charges that we're looking at. There are still, this is a case that has a lot of facets to it, and there is still some investigation that is ongoing here. We are analyzing that even just before we came to the press conference today, and so you'll not find necessarily charges for everybody yet in the system, if you will, for those reporters that are looking for that, but it will be soon coming, and they're all the charges that Captain Alfelt had given us earlier that we have looked at and are analyzing the legal angles of those. As you had heard, not only, and we knew this quite some time ago, days ago, who the person was that pulled the trigger that killed Mr. James Moore, but others could be and will be held responsible for their actions involved in this case. And so when you see charges like murder against other individuals that may not have been the people that pulled the trigger, there's some legal theories under which we can charge some of those individuals. And so we've been working on all of that and analyzing those pieces. Of course, our office cares very much about Mr. Moore's family and sends out condolences to them as well. And again, thank you for everybody, including my colleagues and the Fargo Police Department as well. Thank you.
Just so in closing, just again, message to our community about the significant amount of work that's been done. It's hard to know what's being done when you aren't part of it, but there's a lot of people that aren't standing here right now that have been working on this case continually since the late evening hours of May 22nd, which is absolutely our expectation and requirement. And they've been doing excellent work. It's really led to, in this case, fortunately for everyone, some quick arrests and location of significant evidence and illegal firearms, also things that we want off the streets of Fargo. So I really got to commend the work of all involved. And that's exactly the bar to be set in the future for these types of incidents. So we're fortunate to live in a very safe city. But when something like this does occur, I think it's important for our community to know that we have a very competent and committed police department and collaborative partnerships that are ready to address and hold those folks accountable. So that concludes our conference, unless there's any non-investigative questions. Anything to do with the investigation, we've said all that we can.
So just for the public's understanding, because there was a lot of Facebook messages on the last press release, or the last press conference, you mentioned releasing details could jeopardize the case. In general, could you explain how releasing some details could jeopardize the case?
Sure. In general investigations, especially things like this where you've got multiple people involved, putting details into the media compromises the integrity of any witness or any other even suspect statement. Might also alert them to certain pieces of evidence that they may want to discard prior to the police department locating them. And so all of that detailed information needs to be kept confidential until such time as we get to a juncture like now where we've got 4 people in custody, 3 guns recovered. And if you immediately on day one put all of that information out there, the statements from those individuals, the veracity of them is always in question because we've talked about it on the media, and they could simply say, well, I repeat what the chief said. Here's what really happened. And so as in some of our other investigations, like our double homicide, that's still an active investigation, providing details on it until we've got the people identified in custody and we've talked to all of the folks that were there are the reasons that we can't put those specifics out.
Our team found that the arrest of Rex Rose, it was shown he was arrested at the police department. Did he turn himself in, or what was the deal with that?
No, he was actually arrested in South Fargo.
Do you expect to make more arrests in this case?
Quite possibly, yes. There's other avenues yet that are going to be pursued as part of the investigation. Those may be soon, and those may take some time to develop.
Last week, you guys were talking about you're still hoping to talk to some of the people who were there. Is that still something you guys are looking for, is cooperation from people who were there that night?
I think if there's anyone that has additional information, most definitely we would be interested in speaking with them.
Mr. Youngren, you mentioned Tommy Trent is one of the people that has been arrested in connection to the case. Is that the same Tommy Trent that was involved in the Bismarck shooting, where a fight broke out before Brandon Grant fired several shots?
Yes, it is.
All right, beautiful. Gentlemen, thank you.
Hi, it's Jesse from Valley News Now. We just watched the press conference for the Fargo police. They said it is an active and ongoing investigation and didn't want to take any more questions other than what they provided in the news conference. They're not able to give details that will result in compromising the case, but they did say it involved many people and all involved illegal activity involving weapons. They will pursue all leads in the death of James Moore, the 16-year-old boy that was shot over a week ago. They said that this was a drug robbery. 4 individuals have been arrested: Marcus Rexroad, Tommy Trent. Tommy Trent was also involved in a Bismarck shooting. Marcus McCain and Fabian Scott. The robbery again resulted in the death of 16-year-old James Moore. Some of these people will have charges of murder. They clarified that this means that they took part in the incident, not only the person who just pulled the trigger, and that this investigation is far from over. That's the update from the Fargo Police at the news conference here at 3:30.